This is Joe and Colo at DiscountJuicers.com. Today we have another exciting episode for you. In this episode, I'm going to show you guys once and for all how to best store your juices. Whether you want to freeze your juice, which is something that I've never recommended until now, and I've never made a video about until now, because now I know the best way to freeze your juices if you want to do that. And then also, I will share with you guys actually how to not freeze your juices and store the juices in the best way possible. So let's get into this video without any further ado. So first off, I want to get into, number one, if you guys are going to store your juicers, it is imperative or very important that you make the juicer in the best way possible, right? The reason why when you store juices that they degrade and can degrade rather quickly is because you do not have the cellular structure, the cell walls that protect the nutrients inside the cell walls. That's what juicers are designed to do. They're designed to break open the cell walls and expose the nutrients inside the cell walls and the fiber out to air and put it into a liquid so that we can absorb it very easily. If you use the wrong juicer, then you're destroying a lot of these phytonutrients and antioxidants that help the nutrients preserve themselves, okay? So for example, I'm going to show you guys the worst and best ways to juice if you want to store your juices for the highest level of phytonutrients when storing, but more importantly, if you want them in there when you're storing so the juice stores longer, fresher for longer. More importantly, if you're drinking it immediately, you're going to have more of those valuable phytonutrients to act upon your body in beneficial ways, in my personal opinion, and based on some of the science I've seen with like free radical scavenging ability, for example. All right? So the absolute worst way to juice for phytonutrients and antioxidants for both storage and for you is a high-speed juicer. I'm not a fan of high-speed juicers. They do not actually heat the juice. Actually, this machine is called the Juice Fountain Cold Juicer because it does not heat the juice according to my test, although there's a lot of rhetoric that says it does. But what it does do, it oxidizes the juice, adds a lot of oxygen into the juice, which I think is way worse than heat, actually. So this is the kind of machine you will not want to use if you want to store your juices at all. Okay, moving on to the next best style juicer to use is a slow juicer. Whether you want to use my favorite juicer, which is the Omega VSJ843 and Omega NC800, or something like a Green Star Pro that I also use on occasion, they make a very high quality juice because this machine actually runs at 43 revolutions per minute, so it doesn't put a lot of oxygen into the juice compared to this machine that runs at 10,000 RPMs. That being said, even this juicer, a slow juicer running at 43 RPMs, does put dissolved oxygen into the juice. Not as much as this, but it still does. This preserves the most nutrition, and up until 2021, the slow juicers were the best ways to make juice. But when 2021 rolled around, Tom Dixon of the Blend Tech company introduced me, I didn't even do it myself, to vacuum juicing. So now we have the DynaPro, or you can use other suitable vacuum blenders for vacuum juicing. So you'll basically blend up your mixtures in the blender, and then you'll use the Blend Tech nut milk or juice bag to basically strain out and press out the juice. Now the reason why this is so beneficial to do it in this method is even though the blender runs in excess of 20,000 RPMs, and that's really fast, the thing that's different than the juicers is that this does it in atmospheric oxygen. Whereas in a vacuum blender, you have a vacuum pump. These vacuum pumps go on the top of the machine. You suck out all the excess oxygen out of the container before you blend, so now it's in an oxygen deprived environment. So when the blender is spinning and breaking up the cell walls, actually the blender does it more effectively than any juicer I've tested. It's in an oxygen deprived environment, so now the antioxidants in there don't get destroyed, so those antioxidants are now in the juice to benefit us, but more importantly, they're to protect the juice from further degradation later on, okay? I hope you guys follow that. That's not a very hard concept to follow, but it's a different way of thinking that most people, and there's no other videos on YouTube that go into the depth that I do, that I want to share with you guys, all right? So here's the thing, you know, if you want to store your juices, worst way, you know, this is like an all right way to make the juice to store. But if you want to do it the best way possible, and I'm all about doing it the best way, you want to honestly juice in a vacuum blender. I'll put links down below to a couple of videos I made showing me juicing in this very vacuum blender that is available now. This machine was just released in 2021. So now let's go ahead and demonstrate actually how to store that high quality juice that you made that has the most antioxidants in there, and to preserve those antioxidants in the best way possible. So now I'm going to show you guys the best way to store your juices, right? It is advertised that slow juicers could store the juice up to 72 hours. I have never seen a study that says you can store it up to 72 hours other than a Green Star juicer that shows, minimal nutrient degradation on certain nutrients. So, and that's just the rhetoric that's out there. That being said, I would say, made in a vacuum blender, you could easily do 72 hours without any issue. But if you want to take it beyond that, and I have a video on YouTube, how to store your juices up to a week. And if you make it in a vacuum blender and store it in this way possible, I will say a week, because I've done it myself on many occasions without any degradation. Actually, the owner of Blendtec, Tom Dixon, said he stored his juice, made it under vacuum saved for a month with very little taste changes. Not that I would not recommend that, but that is the power of preserving more nutrients when juicing under vacuum. So here's some juice that I made, and this is actually a watermelon basil lemon juice. The best way to store this juice is, number one, is to get a mason jar. I like to use a wide mouth mason jar. This is a 16 ounce, so we're just going to pour the juice in the mason jar. Don't fill it up to the top. And then you're going to go ahead and get a vacuum lid. This is the Solgit vacuum lids, right? Because what we're going to do is we're going to pull out the oxygen. Because if you even fill up this container to the top and then just screw on a lid and keep the minimal airspace down, there's still oxygen in the airspace, but more importantly, dissolved oxygen in the juice if you didn't make it in a vacuum blender. So we want to make sure we remove that. So you're going to get a vacuum lid top for your mason jar. These are often sold as fermentation lids, but some are made for vacuum sealing. This is the best one I've found, the Solgit. Then you're going to go ahead and take that vacuum pump from your TriBest Dynapro, put it on top, and you're just going to go ahead and press the button. What this pump is doing now it's pumping all the excess oxygen out of the little airspace and probably some out of the juice, and this is an auto-sensing smart pump, so it shuts itself off after it's pumped all the oxygen, and then you can remove it. Now this is stored under vacuum, so now there's basically, this lid won't fall off because we sucked all the extra oxygen out. So now this will not oxidize as quickly as something that's just sealed with a lid on it, even if you filled it up to the top. So in this way, I will then put this in my fridge. Make sure your fridge is at a cold temperature as possible. I like to set my fridge between 33 to 35 degrees, and you could easily store this juice for a week. I would recommend storing juices in this method instead of freezing, because freezing will lower nutrition quality more. Once you do the freezing process, and basically change some nutrients in the freezing process. So I would encourage you guys to do this method, which is a week, but if you need to do it longer than a week, I'm going to show you guys how to do it the best way possible, all right? So to do it the best way possible, you will need a few things. That same vacuum pump, because we want to store it under vacuum. You made it under vacuum, ideally, or even with a slow juicer, so that you don't have the air in there, because the air will hurt you, especially in frozen juices, like a lot more, in my opinion. You're going to need an ice cube tray. So I do not recommend using plastic ice cube trays. I recommend using the silicone ice cube trays. So look at this, we could compress this down. It's just silicone. I like these. This is like a beehive shape. And in addition, very important, you want to get ones with a top. So this top actually goes over the top of the ice cube tray. So you could, so it's makes a solid little honeycomb for the juice to go. And then you also need vacuum storage bags. This is a critical component, and you're going to watch how this works, all right? So first, we're going to go ahead and take our juice, and we're going to basically just pour it into some of the different cells here. All right, very important not to overload some of the cells. I filled up some of these a bit too much because that's not going to be good. And now we're going to go ahead and take the top. We're going to go ahead and put the top on the ice cube tray. Very important. Now very carefully, because this is gonna, this is all liquid in here and it's not frozen yet. We're gonna go ahead and carefully pick this up without trying to spill any. We're going to go ahead and take this and put this in the, basically a vacuum storage Ziploc that has a vacuum port. Very important, it has to have a vacuum port. We're going to go ahead and carefully put this in the vacuum bag, right? These are universal vacuum bags. I'll put links down below to the Solget tops and the vacuum bags and this ice cube tray if you want to get what I'm using. Then we're going to go ahead and seal the zipper, right? But once we seal the zipper, we are not done. You don't just want to put this into the freezer. The issue is we have a lot of trapped air in here that will degrade the juice while it is frozen in your freezer. Much like if you just take bananas and you peel them and you put them in the freezer, right? They will turn brown. I put bananas, I peel them first, then put them in a vacuum bag like this, and they're still bright yellow, even after like a month, 2 months, 3 months, right? They didn't change because I pulled out the oxygen to prevent further oxidation during the storage. Yes, even if you freeze stuff, it can oxidize during the storage. So we want to minimize that. So once you put it in this bag, you're going to take your vacuum pump, and there's a little area where you put it. It's like the vacuum valve area. And I can't really tilt this up to show you guys, but basically I'm going to put this on here, press the vacuum pump, and you want to pay attention because you don't want to start sucking juice out. Right, but once we start doing this, the bag is going to suck all the excess oxygen now. It's going to start compressing this so hardcore that it might end up sucking juice out. All right, so in this case, good, we're not sucking juice out. And we want to make sure that we fill this enough so that we suck all the excess oxygen out of each of the honeycomb chambers. Maybe I could have filled up some of these a little bit more, actually. But you can see some of the air bubbles coming up, and then it's just actually getting sucked out. So once we have it nice and sucked, you can see we're really sucked down there. We sucked all the excess oxygen out of the bag, but also a lot of the excess oxygen out of the little cells. So now we have a little thing we could freeze. Now what you want to do is you want to stick this in your freezer, and you can freeze it, right? And it's going to freeze. Now the most important part, to maximize your phytonutrients and antioxidant content is make it in a vacuum blender, store it under vacuum, and now this is the most important part, don't forget this. You want to take it out when you're ready to eat it, or whatever, drink these juices. You want to take it out, leave it under vacuum, and then let it defrost while it's under vacuum. Very critical. The reason why is this: there are proven scientific studies that when you freeze fruit, it locks in the nutrients. Of course, there's some degradation during the freezing process if you're not storing it under vacuum in an, standard traditional atmospheric, levels. And then when you take out the frozen fruit and you thaw it, right, because the freezing blows open cell walls, not as much as juicing, right, and you defrost it, if you defrost it slowly, you lose more antioxidants because it's defrosting slowly, and the antioxidants are reacting to the air. So you want to only defrost it while it is under vacuum. Once it's fully defrosted, then you could pour out the juice, and then you want to drink all the juice. I would not then refreeze the juice, pull out the air again. You would want to just go ahead and use all that right then and there. So that's the best way possible to preserve the most nutrients. Whether you want to vacuum seal it in a jar for up to 7 days, or whether you want to vacuum, seal it and then freeze it. If you do it like this, I'd say maybe even a year, provided your freezer stays totally frozen. Don't get one of those ones that automatic defrost. You want that cold, deep storage, freezer that doesn't ever defrost in its own. I'd say easily a year. Of course, beyond this, you could do something like freeze drying, or even refractants window drying, which will preserve the most nutrients that I'm aware of, when storing your juices to maintain the highest level of nutrients. Once again, very critical to make it under vacuum to preserve the most antioxidants. And once you made it under vacuum, store it under vacuum and defrost it under vacuum as well. So there you guys have it. You're going to never hear information like this anywhere else, because I really dig into the science and I experiment, I do things, I critically think. And so if you guys appreciate this video, want me to do more videos like this, hey, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up and share this video with others so that they could surely learn the best way to store your juices on the planet here in 2021. When I come up with something better, I'll have a video on that as well. There are some other newer technologies that may work a little bit better, that may work better than this technology, but then you're going to have to spend a lot more money for that. The cool thing is if you buy the vacuum blender, you get that vacuum pump, you just got to buy a couple lids, a couple bags, and some ice cube trays, and you are all set and ready to go. I would also say that if this video has helped you think about or learn some new ways of doing things, I would ask you for your help. And you could support me by making your purchase at discountjuicers.com. This allows me to continue to experiment in my kitchen to make these videos so I can share with you guys the best information I have so that you guys can maximize your phytonutrients and your nutrients and get them into you in the best ways possible so that you could get the benefits from more fruits and vegetables in your diet. So I thank you guys in advance who will support me, and I want to thank you guys who have supported me in the past so that I could continue my mission to share with people how to best process the fruits and vegetables so that you could get the benefits from them. My life was saved from juicing and dietary changes, moving towards a plant-based diet, and I feel I'm only excelling the benefits from doing some of the techniques that I use that literally nobody else in the plant-based world does, because I'm just that crazy kooky guy on YouTube. Also, be sure to click that subscribe button right down below so you notice that I'm in new and upcoming episodes I come out every 5 to 7 days. You never know where I'll show up or you'll be learning on my YouTube channel. Make sure you click the little bell to get notified as my new videos come out. And finally, be sure to check my past episodes. My past episodes are a wealth of knowledge, over 600 episodes at this time on this YouTube channel, dedicated to sharing with you guys the best way to juice, preserve your juices, as well as the best juicers and other vacuum blender and other appliances that will allow you to eat more fruits and vegetables, in your life. I'll put a couple links down below to juicing in the DynaPro so that you guys can see the process. You now learn how to store them the best way possible. So with that, my name is John Kohler with DiscountJuicers.com. Be sure to visit DiscountJuicers.com/YouTube for special promotional offers for our YouTube visitors.